Hi, good evening from Singapore. And let me start by first saying big thank you to the Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council, GJEPC, for organizing this incredible IIJS virtual. And I've just been informed that there are over 7,000 registrations for this show, which is truly a testament to the hard work that the council has been doing. And we're so excited. I'm so excited to join you from Singapore. We have an incredible panel with us today. We're going to talk about design direction for 2021. And we have Sarah. Sarah, say hi. From an order of bling, a very cool jewelry brand based in Singapore, which has developed quite the cult following in the last 5 to 6 years, not just in Singapore, but also globally. We have Vishal, a Mumbai-based Vishal.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us today from VAK Jewels. Do I say VAK or do I say VAC?
VAC.
Yeah. It's like a
VAC.
And you have two brands. You've launched a second brand during lockdown called V by VAC. And we're going to talk about that later on as well. And then we have Yosina from Fabergé. Thank you so much, Yosina, for joining us. And Yosina joins us from London. So it's quite early in the morning for you. And yeah, it's an early start. But we're very excited to have you with us. And since we have an hour, let's get cracking and delve deep into the subject, which hopefully will be interesting for whoever is watching us today. So I want to start by talking about Fabergé. And, when you think about decorative eggs and enameling, I mean, enameling and jeweled eggs have been around before Peter Carl Fabergé came on this sort of global stage. But due to the exceptional artistry of his craft, Fabergé almost started owning that space of jeweled eggs and enameling. And so you had then, of course, in the late 19th century and early 20th century, Fabergé became the gift to give and to receive in royal circles, amongst nobles and people who were connoisseurs. But then, of course, we had the Russian Revolution in 1917, and Peter Carl Fabergé and his family lost everything. And you had this gap of 93 years where there was no jewelry being produced by Fabergé. And then in 2011, Gemfields relaunched the brand. And so, which brings me now to my question for you, Yosina, because it seems like an impossible task because, in that gap of almost 100 years, Fabergé was living through museum collections, through auctions. And so because of that, there was a sense of ownership that people around the world developed for this brand, for what they considered was the spirit of Fabergé. So now in 2020, so on 24th of September, you celebrated, not celebrated, but marked 100 years of the death anniversary of Peter Carl Fabergé. And we're in 2020 now. How does Fabergé evolve and design today? How do you represent this incredible iconic brand, knowing that you will not please everyone?
Yeah, I think, Richard, thank you so much. I think that's a fantastic summary. And you hit the nail on the head. Fabergé is a global icon, and with that comes a huge responsibility, of course, to preserve certain aspects of this extraordinary brand. And if I can just go back just a little bit to the beginning, and you rightly said, gift giving around Easter was a worldwide tradition, of course, mainly in the Catholic calendar. But where Peter Carl Fabergé really sort of reinvented things was he was the one who sort of brought out the idea of the art of the surprise. So not just the bejeweling of the egg or the sort of enhancement of what makes it very simple, basic tradition of painted hen egg. But really, the thing that he totally changed was that people could find something inside of the egg, so the surprise. And so that was really also why he captured the imagination of his clientele, because he really understood the kind of art of storytelling. And it's such an overused phrase now, but he really embraced every single element of the eggs and every element of a piece of jewelry, that everything had a meaning, everything had a reference. And I think that is the key. And you're absolutely right with this massive responsibility where many people around the world have a relationship or an emotion attached to Fabergé, because it just, I think, evokes a lot of, stories, and where a brand has survived through all the ages, the Russian Revolution, world wars, a licensing sort of past. And we always joke about it to say that, Fabergé is kind of bulletproof because so much has happened, yet it's still here. People still come back to it and love the tradition of the Fabergé eggs. But you're absolutely right to say that we can't please everyone. I think our ambition, our responsibility is to preserve the legacy, and at the same time, though, ensure that there is an evolution. We know one thing for sure, which is that Peter Carl Fabergé did not stand still. He was an innovator, he was an engineer and a creative mastermind. And I think those overlaps we explore today, of course, in some ways differently, because as you rightly say, the world has changed, our clients have changed, but certain things have not changed. So we do focus on a lot of the traditional craftsmanship, in particular, things like enameling and guilloche engraving, which have become a bit of a dying art. So with our responsibility, we also take the responsibility for our workmasters and our creatives and our workshops to make sure that some of this extraordinary skill set doesn't die. And so I think Fabergé does have a global responsibility for artistry and jewelry.
Right. So thank you for that. And I think I want to switch gears a little bit and come to you, Vishal and Sarah. Now, both of you, when you started, your respective brands started with a blank canvas. And what I would like to understand is how your design aesthetic and your language, your design languages sort of evolved over the years. Could you share a little bit more with us about it? And Vishal, maybe I can start with you and then I'll
Sure.
Sarah.
Right.
I'm gonna pull up the slide with the
Yes.
photographs.
Right. So, my family has been in the business for the last 3 generations.
Yeah.
However, I come from a family of rebels. So each generation has totally undone what the previous generation did. So when I started, actually, I didn't want to come into the diamond or jewelry business. I wanted to be a fashion designer or maybe a sculptor. But when I did enter the business, being a family business, initially the gemstones were just a medium to express my art. And then I fell in love with them eventually. So I started creating high artisanal handcrafted jewelry using rare gemstones, which I personally collected from different parts of the world. My design vocabulary is very India modern, meets rock and roll. My designs are edgy, they are a bit eccentric. A critic in Europe once said that my designs are maverick, and I actually love that word. Because, I use very antique cut of diamonds. I use a lot of portrait and rose cut diamonds, but I set them in a very, very contemporary style. sometimes setting them upside down, recutting them, doing very different things with them. My designs are inspired by nature, as well as architectural motifs on heritage buildings. So I have a whole line that I have designed from the Baroque architectural motifs of the Royal Opera House, where I have my store as well. So Art Deco, Art Nouveau, Baroque architecture, they play a big role in my design aesthetics. I use minimal, yeah.
I'm interrupting you, but how did you sort of, when I'm looking at these photographs right now,
right,
you have these.
So to start with, right?
Yeah.
So my initial, when I started, it would be the spinel and rose cut diamond layered ring.
Right.
You could show that one, yeah. So that was, very classic, quintessential WAC design. Minimal metal with sculptural and architectural workmanship, 3-dimensional. You could say that was the birth of WAC.
Right.
So the gemstones were literally floating. So it was just like floating gemstones on a seamless canvas. Just for me, it was just like a painting.
Right.
And then we moved to the Tree of Life.
Yes.
The earrings which had just popped up.
Yes. I'll bring it back.
On the previous, yeah. So the Tree of Life is where I started experimenting with, maverick metallurgy. It's 18 karat white gold, brown rhodium plated.
Right.
So this gives a very organic look, using materials like rhodium to blend with nature.
Yes.
And you can see I use a lot of nature. So the recurring motif of branches, trees, twigs. So brown rhodium, blue rhodium, different colors, started adding a lot of life to the jewelry and the gemstones. The white gemstones pop out even more against the background of the different colors. So while some of the designers are using titanium, I use it in 18 karat gold, but with rhodium plating.
Interesting. And so color is definitely plays an important role in all your creations, whether it's color that you introduce through gold or whether it's color that you introduce through gemstones.
The gemstones as well, yes. Right. So I love spinels, and the good thing is that spinels I have been able to source in all the different colors, not just the ruby red, but pinks, purples, grays, yellows, oranges. I use a lot of Burmese non-heated spinels in my jewelry.
I would encourage everyone to go and check out Vishal's Instagram to see all the color that's there. But I want to, so I want to switch gears a little bit. So is it fair to say, Vishal, before I move on to Sarah, that when we look at some of the designs that you started with and the designs that you're moving towards now, and I feel that when you talk about a jewelry designer, it's the same as talking about an artist or a painter or sculptor who, like, what is the early period and the current sort of period, and are you finding that you're becoming more experimental? Did you feel that you were a little more traditional earlier on? Well, how would you summarize this before I?
Right. So I think I was a bit more classic in my design and the work, and slowly as I'm learning, because I'm learning while I'm working, so I'm self-educated in jewelry. So the more I'm learning, with more experience, I'm definitely experimenting much more.
Right.
I spend a lot of time in the atelier. I have my own in-house atelier. Every piece is created in my in-house atelier. So I spend more than half my day in there. And, we're always doing new things there. Enjoying myself, actually.
That's it.
That's where I love being the most.
That sounds very familiar. Well, so I'm going to switch gears to Sarah. And Sarah, let me see. The next slide is a pair of mahjong rings from an order of bling. So tell us a little bit about your design evolution and what has helped you, understand yourself and understand your design language over the past 5 years.
Like Vishal, I'm also a self-taught designer. I did go to school to learn how to do some technical drawings, but other than that, all the inspirations come from everything that I see, everything that I read, and everything that I consume. A huge level of fashion. So the rings that you see on screen at the moment, they were inspired when Rihanna wore Guo Pei to the Met Gala in 2015, when the theme was China Through the Looking Glass. And for the Metropolitan Museum to speak about Chinese arts, it got me excited, and I started to read. And I found that Chinese arts actually have a lot of meaning and symbolism in them. And this pair of carved Burmese jadeite actually is supposed to symbolize a double serving, double blessings of happiness, health, and prosperity. If you look closely, you can actually see a hidden coin in the carving as well. So when I stumbled upon these pieces of jade, the dealer was telling me, "Oh, make earrings," but I wasn't so interested to do something so expected, because an Order of Bling is a company that's known to surprise in our designs, right? Always an element of something different, so that we can, like we say, allow the wearer to start conversations and have the pieces last generations. So with these rings, they're meant to be worn as a pair on the fingers, the pointer fingers, because this is the finger of authority. It's the finger that when you give an instruction, you're using it. When the Chinese empress is drinking tea, it's featured very prominently. And I can't be more thrilled. The rings now belong to a princess, and they are in the collection of a royal family now. So really, I think for us, we're very free-spirited in our design, and we get inspiration everywhere. And I think a little bit like Vishal, he's designing attitude jewelry. So we've kind of started doing that at an Order of Bling as well. We have this style we call writing with diamonds. So it's a calligraphy in the style of calligraphy, and this necklace is behaving badly.
I love this necklace. We all must behave badly.
You have to behave badly. And then for the die-hard movie fan, we have a diamond bangle that says "Yippee-ki-yay!" And you know how you finish.
How do I finish that sentence? No.
Takes me back to college.
But this is what I love about you, because why can't jewelry be fun, and why can't it be edgy? And I think so let me not take over what you were saying. Sorry, go back to you.
I was going to say, Vishal, being called the Maverick, right? You know exactly what I mean about attitude jewelry, because when you put it on, you feel cooler, you've got street cred. It's really something else. And I think it's something that we will do quite a bit here at an Order of Bling.
Bravo to that.
So let's talk about clients for a second. So Yosina, I want to grab you now. And one of the things that I was surprised to learn at your presentation in Singapore last year, I can't believe a year has gone by, but was that Fabergé also does an incredible amount of bespoke creations. And I didn't realize how much of bespoke commissions you actually execute. So could you tell us how your clients are influencing your design?
Sure. I think that's actually also related to your earlier question as to how we're sort of continuing in 2020 the legacy of Peter Carl Fabergé and the house as a whole. And people don't realize that Peter Carl Fabergé actually worked extremely closely with all of his clients. So all of the royal families that have Fabergé in their collections, which I think are most, if not all of them, worked very closely with Peter Carl, and he was extremely focused on ensuring that these pieces had a personal meaning. And you touched upon it earlier, that Fabergé really was and is known as the iconic brand to buy gifts, whether that's for yourself or other people. And I think with that, that is already a sort of collaborative process that, and I'm sure the other jewelers on this panel know, you have to really think of your client throughout the entire process. And with Fabergé, it is something where we're extremely lucky through our corporate structure, our company structure, where our parent company is Gemfields, and so we have direct access to the source of colored gemstones, beautiful emeralds from Zambia and extraordinary rubies from Mozambique. So we're extraordinarily lucky in that we can take the client on that journey right from the beginning of when the raw materials come out of the earth. And I think this is what's super exciting for clients now. I think people are getting a little bit jaded, and that's why I love also hearing the other jewelers talking about, breaking the rules and, having fun. I think this is so important. And for us, especially, it's sort of empowering the client and lowering the hurdles. I think the jewelry industry had so many, sort of areas that were cordoned off. You didn't really know, maybe even like 5 years ago, where the materials were from. It was all a bit secretive, all a bit opaque. And I think for us now, we really open up, our company, whether the archive or it's our drawings or it's working directly with our designer. And, we take massive pride. For us, this is where we get most joy out of it. When clients really feel like actually a piece of them has been, embedded in this piece of jewelry, and when they tell us stories as to, how they presented it, how it actually continued to accompany them on their journey, and so many things, through all different age groups across the globe. And this is where I think jewelry really comes to life. And I think the exciting thing about 2020 is that it is no longer about this one heirloom piece that maybe sits in a safe for, decades. And there's this one occasion and you bring it out and you have to be, scared to death to, wear it. But for us now, it's about really having that fusion of people's lifestyle and the jewelry that they wear, or the timepiece or the objet d'art, whatever it may be. And that process of bespoke really is able to take all of that into consideration. And, we make bespoke pieces from, it's still a lot of money, but still from around $10,000. So it's not something that is locked away, that's totally out of reach. People save up for this and they come to us and they ask us about, different gemstones and things that are meaningful to them. And then, we love that working together, and we go through a process with them of creating different drawings until the final piece. And, that piece becomes something so different than maybe something you picked up. And there's nothing wrong with seeing something in a boutique and saying, I love it as it is. I'm going to have it as wonderful. But I think it's something a bit different where it does become this co-creation process with a client that just adds another dimension, I think.
And I think it's something that I've also noticed many designers sharing, that especially in 2020, the percentage of bespoke commissions has increased. And I don't know if that's something that the three of you have experienced as well. And
we definitely have. I think this has been such a crazy year for everyone. And, there's been so many different battles, within this this pandemic. So I think more than ever, I think the trend is definitely away from anything throwaway. That's a given. And that obviously is in fashion, but mostly. But even, when it comes to jewelry, I think now people are really thinking about longevity. They're thinking about preserving value. They're thinking about investment pieces.
Right.
They may take longer in that process to decide, which is absolutely right. It should be very important to their decisions. But I think in this year in particular, we've seen, and I'd be interested to know about the others, if that's the same for them, but we've definitely seen an uptake on bespoke. And, also, it's even more valuable now, I think, to celebrate a milestone and actually also celebrate the people in our life. It's all shifted focus. We're less distracted by the pace of life. And I think even more jewelry lends itself, gemstones lend themselves to that, really considered process. And the fact that we work with material that's come, from our beautiful planet. And, how do we work with that fantastic material? And I think that's actually been a bit of a wonderful silver lining in this whole great.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, jewelry is, in my opinion, and I'm sure you agree, a marker of human emotions and experiences, right? And I want to quickly talk about an incredible collaboration that you had with a very important client of yours, Yosina. I'm going to pull up that image, and maybe you can quickly tell us a snapshot of what that was about, and then I'm going to switch gears and ask Vishal a very difficult question. So get ready.
Sorry to share your answer. No, exactly, and I think it does go back to the sort of collaboration and co-creation that I touched upon, and this was an extraordinary story because we started our friendship with Rolls-Royce some time ago, and I think we're two brands that think very much alike. You know, we are independent, we are family owned, and we have extraordinary legacy. We are having to, you know, survive in this fast moving world. But at the same time, you know, we are very attached also to our founders and everything that we stand for from, you know, from our very beginning. So we share a lot of thoughts around, you know, how do we grow and evolve without compromising our beautiful legacy. And so that friendship was already developing, and the idea was born that we should create this sort of like-minded meeting of two similar brands, and in a way commemorate that fusion and that meeting. And so the idea was born that, and Rolls-Royce were extraordinary throughout the whole process. They're beautiful, beautiful brands, so well considered, and absolutely perfectionist in everything they do. So they really deserve, you know, this reputation that they have. And you know, we decided to collaborate and do something, and you know, they said they would honor us with allowing us to use the symbol, which is the spirit of ecstasy, that they had never given to anyone outside of their company to use. So this was a huge deal. Right where we sort of made this decision to create something, one of our joint collectors, you know, said, "I've got to have this. Whatever you're doing, I want this piece." So it became just an extraordinary journey. And actually, recently there was just a little press in Tatler, Asia, about the story actually of when I then carried this piece over to be presented for the first time, and it had to go, out of all places, it had to go to Wyoming, Jackson Hole in Wyoming, and that story in itself of how it got there is in this month's Tatler.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but yeah. I would encourage everyone to Google Hong Kong Tatler Fabergé egg story, because it's an insane story, and Yosina almost landed up behind bars in the US.
Yeah, I did. Out of all places in the US. Yeah. No, it was unbelievable. And you know what people don't realize, and I'm sure everyone, you know, joining us today, they do have more of an idea, but behind the scenes of our lives, it's really extraordinary. And the stories that are part of these pieces, not just once they are handed over, but even before they're handed over. And you know, this is an unbelievable story of really two companies coming together and creating something for an exceptional client. And you know, within that, you have all of the DNA of both brands. And you know, the piece was crafted out of 18 karat gold, and we had rose gold, we had white gold, we had diamonds, we had amethyst, blades, we had 2 layers that when the egg opened at different sort of places, and then in the center rose up the spirit of ecstasy, which was hand carved, and it was just a really magnificent piece. And we actually brought it to Singapore when we were, the client was extremely good, and he allowed us to bring it and present it in a few different places in the world, and Singapore was one of those places. So Rolls-Royce joined us to unveil it there, and it's just wonderful. And I think it's this piece for me that you're seeing on the screen. It just really also showcases what is possible. It's a very modern piece, but it has so many historic references. For example, the base of the piece is all hand carved. It's guilloche enamel, so it's all been hand engraved. And then beautiful purple enamel, which for those of you that know the technique of enameling, they know it's an extraordinary process that takes many different stages, exactly, and only few people can actually perfect it to this level that we at Fabergé use. And so we have a handful of extraordinary enamel workmasters, and one of them produced this beautiful stand. And again, there also it's co-creation between the different workmasters. But yeah, that was a fabulous story, and one that deserves to be told many times.
Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing your views on collaboration with customers, and what an incredible example of that, the Rolls-Royce Fabergé egg. So Vishal, are you ready for the question I'm going to ask you?
I'm nervous.
Joking. But having traveled, you know that I curate trips to gemstone mines and manufacturing centers, and I've been to India and brought people to India so many times. And India is blessed because they are such an international hub of creativity when it comes to diamond cutting, colored gemstone cutting, and jewelry manufacturing. And of course, I've visited so many ateliers, large, medium, small, where I've seen fresh graduates from design schools working, developing their craft. And of course, the GGAPC has also introduced artisan awards to recognize young talent. However, there is a segment of the manufacturing industry, which and this is from stories that I've heard from young students and fresh graduates when they come in with stars in their eyes, and in some situations they're handed books, jewelry books, auction catalogs, and told to just copy the design and make a few modifications, use their talent to make a few modifications so it doesn't look like an exact carbon copy.
And I think that's been happening for generations, right? I mean, for the last 20, 30 years.
But I think even not in India, everywhere else as well. I mean,
I would say the sad part is that's what my view. I think, the sad part is that it's the clientele who is demanding this. So it's not just the jeweler, it's not just what the designer wants, but the client that walks into your store comes sometimes with a catalog. They come with a Harry Winston or a Graph or, a Viren Bhagat design saying, this is what I want, can you make it for me?
Right.
So that's where, sometimes there is this challenge between being a commercial success and being an artist.
Yes.
But end of the day, you've got to do what you enjoy doing. So like for me, for example, I've taken the challenging path. I want to do what I enjoy doing. I want to do artistic pieces. Yes. And that's the same advice I would give even the designers, be true to yourself, be who you are, even if it gets challenging for some time. Yes. Find the kind of jewelers. They may be less, but there are jewelers out there today. You're at this tipping point where the new generation, even in the jewelers, the young, kids have gone abroad, they've studied, they've come back with new ideas, they want to do original things. They're all on social media. They know, once you copy and you blog it, you're going to be trolled for it. So they want to do something original. And, find those jewelers, find them, take your time, be patient, but be true to yourself for sure.
Yes. No, absolutely. Well said. And I think...
But I just hope the clientele changes. In the end, it's the client who has to also appreciate art and love art, and not just want that same, 5-carat commodity diamond.
Yes.
So, and I see even that changing. So once the client changes, the jeweler will change and even demand the same thing from the young, students, but original things.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think this is something that I talk about as well, that, when you're looking at a piece of jewelry and you have to think 20 years from now, right? When you look at auction catalogs, past lots sold, and you see what is it that is holding value, right? If you have a design which looks like just a copy of something original, then the value of that piece will just be the sum of the parts, which is the intrinsic at the beginning and the end of it. But then if you have a piece by an artist, I mean, Fabergé is a perfect example, where the intrinsic value sometimes of the material is not necessarily, that high, but what the value comes from the artisanship. And I think you're absolutely right. It's a pleasure to see so many new brands and jewelry designers emerging from the younger generation. You and are a perfect example of that. But thank you for your advice, and I hope a lot of the students want to talk about that one. So, Lucina, I want to talk about, let me just do a time check. Okay, we have some time. We have around 25 minutes. So I want to talk about online. Now, since day one, when Fabergé relaunched in 2011, since day one, Fabergé has had a very strong online presence. And at a time when it was not, something that prevalent in the industry, especially when you're looking at fine jewelry and high jewelry and the type of pieces that you create. And so, but interacting with your customers, having masterclasses, creating special curated experiences where your customers have an opportunity to learn more about the history and learn more about the artisanship is an integral sort of part of what you do as the global sales director. And so tell us, with this current situation, courtesy Mr. COVID, how is that online presence supporting your work? How are you getting around, not being able to travel and interact with your customers, which is what drives and inspires a lot of your team?
Yeah, I completely agree, and you're absolutely right. Fabergé has always, since it was relaunched, had that very much that understanding that online was here to stay. And it was quite funny. I remember when online e-commerce became a thing. So many luxury brands, took one look and dismissed it immediately, said, this is not for us, this is not what we do. And then it all came sort of to bite them in the bum in the end, because they needed to, it was clear that it was a behavioral change, so they all rushed into that space and, got their websites transactional and, did all of the work. And then gradually, we obviously, everyone saw that clients, and I think we are all a bit surprised, maybe even ourselves, how quickly we became okay with, spending a large amount of money, or larger than we may even do in a store, taking a long time, and online it's sort of quite quick. But I absolutely also I think it's important to understand that for us in particular, and I think the others all agree, especially with precious materials, you cannot ever replace the physical touch. And a handbag, you may have YouTube videos, whatever, people describing the dimensions, trying it out and sort of reviewing it. It's very different with jewelry and timepieces and objet d'art. And, like I said, for us, we're very sort of open, approachable company, and we like the dialogue. And actually, to that point, our online, yes, of course, it increased dramatically in this time of various lockdowns, and that was down to.
Is there a percentage that you could share with us in terms of your sales online versus pre-COVID?
Yeah, it's quite massive. It's about 350%. So it is huge. But I will say, just to sort of put it back in perspective, Fabergé's actual online transaction value has been historically quite a small part of our business, which goes back to your point that for us, and I think especially where we have a lot of client interaction, these two things will never be divided, and one will never replace the other. But online is a point of convenience. It's a point of information, research, understanding, about the brand, and people being able to research this in their own time and they want to read what they want to read. And I think, this is where we've adapted as well. It's all about being there when the client is ready. And that's where sort of our global by appointment that we founded, as I think it's 5 years ago now, where this is something where we travel wherever the client is. And, we set up as in different places, in sort of mini trunk shows. And it's nothing sort of big gala events like maybe some of the other brands are doing. We're doing it very personal. It's by invitation. We know who our guests are and who our audience is. And, I think with Fabergé as well, and I'm sure it's the same for other brands, there's so much to be shown and said and shared that, for us, these touch points are so important. And for our clients, the same. They're learning more and more. And I think Fabergé in that sense has, a wonderful advantage because, our history is so rich. So there's so many chapters. We have our Heritage Council. As important people on this Heritage Council advising the Fabergé team today to make sure that the history is well respected and understood. And they come on these tours with us and they lecture and we do mini seminars and we do workshops. We do the same for gemstones where people can touch and feel and understand, what is a gemstone? How do I look at it? What are the different considerations when buying one and what's the industry like? And, just that education, I think can never be replaced. Yes, of course, online is amazing because it's such a plethora of, sources of information, but also can be highly confusing. And I think that, people maybe also with what happened this year, but we saw it anyway, we saw it over the last few years, that people are really missing that personal touch. And I think that the sort of explosion of online activity and the bombardment of social media and everything, which is wonderful, we all love it, we all need it. But actually what it doesn't do is make something tailor-made. Who's interested in a particular thing and they want to just know everything they can about that. And I think online is getting a bit better that, you do have these videos and all of those things, but I think a person to person passionately talking about something they love, you can never replace. So online is here to stay and we use it very much as a sort of, online, offline kind of omni-channel type of presence. But our clients need that one-on-one help and that, they want to discuss something about, how they want to present it or what their concerns are about the value, as you said. And
I think, sorry, I'm interrupting you, but it reminds me of something Sarah does on her Instagram, where she dresses up into this character called the Duchess. And the Duchess will do videos educating everybody about different gemstones. And sometimes her nephews are there with her, helping her out, little elves. But I think it through the humor and
it's so original.
No, absolutely, that's for sure. But I think also I see it on my Insta account as well, and I'm sure you experience it as well, Vishal. This whole desire to learn, this whole desire for demystifying an industry that has traditionally been quite mysterious, and so people want to learn more about how the value will appreciate and what does it mean. So Sarah, I want to come to you quickly, and can you tell us some examples of how you've collaborated with your clients and how they've influenced your design style? And after that, I'm going to come back to the rest of you and talk a little bit about responsible jewelry.
Oh, I'm very lucky to have amazing clients. The clients that come to me, they're so interesting, and sometimes they bring the inspiration to me. So for example, last year, I think a lot of them wanted to create an ode to Mother Nature. So a lot of them came to me and said, "Oh, are you able to make me things of beauty that." So this is a pair of dancing fishes with 12 karat tanzanite, and we can also wear this as a pendant. And then there were ladies who were coming to ask for beautiful flowers. So we also made pieces. And then obviously, because I was, doing so much research on nature and how to translate it into a jewelry piece, we also made a piece for our collection. So this daisy flower has a surprise element in it. So, with daisies, you're supposed to go, he loves me not, so he loves me. So this is a reminder to someone that somebody loves you. So I think the clients, they come and to a certain extent, maybe it's because they're well-traveled, they see a lot, and they then want to put that experience into their jewelry, into their pieces, and they want it a little statement so that when somebody sees it, they will say, what have you got there? And then it starts, a conversation, right? So I think for me, the clients that I serve are really amazing, because it's that conversation that we have with them that Yoshina was talking about, that Vishal knows. They sit and they tell you stories, they share all these intimate details, and then you, as a creator, you are able to turn that into a piece, and it makes it so special. It makes it meaningful for you when you're making it. You are so excited to do the piece, and then you're excited.
You have a creative satisfaction as well.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like it's a little bit like that cliche scene of someone walking into a bar and the bartender is sitting there with his glasses, and the guy is sitting there, telling the bartender about his problems in life, and schools are a little bit like that, right? In taking what's happening in someone's life and then creating something tangible, whether it's a marriage or whether it's just marking a milestone. And so I want to ask you all, the COVID crisis has really forced us as human beings to re-examine a lot of our choices and relook at our lifestyle. And so how has this impacted all of you and your work? And how can maybe we start with you, Vishal, and then we'll switch to Yosina, coming back to you, Sarah.
Right. So in the end of 2019, Gemfields approached me to be a design partner with them, and luckily the timing was really good. So now I'm a design partner with Gemfields, and I'm proud to say that WAC supports the Walk for Giants. So we've created an exclusive piece for Walk for Giants.
Pull it up while you're talking.
Yeah, 50% of the profits will be shared with the foundation.
And what is Walk for Giants? Can you explain that?
So it's an initiative where it's protecting elephants from poachers is a cause close to my heart. So across Africa and India, elephants is revered as a symbol of wisdom and good luck. So designing a piece for the initiative, I've designed a special piece especially for the initiative, which is by Space for Giants, is the NGO that has taken this up. And it's been a great labor of love. So I've created a Mozambique ruby ring to create awareness for the conservation efforts to protect elephants and the endangered African habitat.
Yes.
So I've created a one-of-a-kind handcrafted ring with Mozambique non-heated rubies, which have been sourced by me from a Gemfields auction partner. Right. And they've been specially cut for the piece. Right. So here you have two Mozambique rubies, which are weighing 5.80 carats each.
And what is the design?
So, the ring's yin-yang design is a symbol of the interdependence of the natural world.
Yes.
And the blood of elephants that's too often lost to poachers. That's the rubies, which I've used, giving the appearance of evolving from an elephant's head to its tusks. So the center rose-cut diamonds are symbolic of the elephant's eyes. So I think that's what, with COVID, we've realized to give back to nature as well.
And do you see yourself doing more of this going forward in 2021? Because the theme is Design Direction 2021. So let's talk about, we have 11 minutes left. So let's talk a little bit now about, we've talked about the history, we've talked about what we've been experiencing, what you've all been experiencing this year. And let's talk about 2021. Do you see this as something influencing your designs moving forward? You see customers looking for...
Yes. I think designs will always be my own inspiration.
Yes.
But having said that, definitely there will be much more that I would like to give back to, nature, and have more causes that I would like to, be a part of.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah.
I'll let you finish, Vishal.
Sure. No, but designs, definitely, it's always my, inspiration that I get from different nature. And nature has played such an important part in my designs that, it's just the right kind of vocabulary for today's environment. Yes. Saving the environment, saving nature, which we have, taken advantage of for so many hundreds of years today.
Taken for granted, for sure.
Taken for granted, yeah.
Yosina, I'm going to come to you now. And could you share with us, something recent that has happened? And you sent me some photographs, which I'll pull up now. And
sure. A beautiful ring, by the way, Michelle, that you have created. And actually, we Fabergé also participated in Walk for Giants, but because I really genuinely believe it's exactly right what everyone's saying about this year and beyond, next year, and even beyond that. We all have to think more about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and I think maybe a little bit like investment. Now, impact investment is the sort of buzzword of the year and going forward. And I think the same maybe with jewelry, impact jewelry. What else does your piece represent? And we, for example, we did several things, both sort of local and more on a broader scale this year. But we've actually sort of had our eye out for some time for partners in that space. But this particular piece that you see on the screen was a beautiful collaboration for Stop Hunger and Hunger Project, and we donated a percentage of the sales, and actually the rainbow, obviously I don't know if it's the same globally, but in the UK, the rainbow has become a symbol of our care workers and the NHS, our health system. And with the rainbow, we feel is also obviously a symbol of hope. It's there can't be a rainbow without rain, and we really feel we wanted to kind of give a little bit of a small surprise, inside this egg that lifts people's spirits. And we also have beautiful rainbow bands to go with it that were part of the initiative. Tiny little bands, nothing elaborative. And so that project started. And then, as I was saying, that was probably more on a global basis. And then we also work very closely locally wherever we are. And this particular piece that you see on the screen is actually an extraordinary story of an amazing foundation in Houston, Texas, that is there to support children with cancer and help them and their families through this extraordinarily difficult time. And the butterfly is a very personal story of the family that unfortunately lost their son to cancer at a very young age. And we collaborated. The family is called Carrera Family Foundation that are behind the initiative. And the family that lost their son asked the sort of heavens for a sign shortly after his passing. And on a game day, Carlos Carrera, who's a baseball player for the Astros in Texas, had actually, whilst the game was going on, he had a butterfly land on his shoulder. And it was this extraordinary sort of emotional scene that was captured on live TV. And we used this butterfly to put it inside the egg, and we did a limited edition of 17 pieces, from which the proceeds, percent of the proceeds went to the foundation. And that's just the beginning. We have so many amazing things lined up for next year, and we really feel that is the mood of the now. It's we can't just be this sort of one-track minded people anymore doing our thing. We have to think how does what we do influence other people? And I feel that's the same that's happening in jewelry. You know, where are the gemstones from? How have they been mined? What has been the process? You know, what process been done in a considered way? So
yeah, sorry, I'm interrupting you because we have 5 minutes left, and I wanna talk a little bit about the future. So and a question for all of you, if you had a crystal ball, what would be your predictions for 2021? And I'm going to come to you, Sarah, and start with you. So if you had to do a prediction for 2021 in terms of design, and also not just design, but also the jewelry industry at large, based on your experience with your clientele, what do you see for 2021?
Well, so if I had a crystal ball for 2021, I would say that more and more people will fall in love with the intimacy of jewelry. So why did I say intimacy? Is because when jewelry is given as a symbol for love, it's worn right next to the skin, and there can be nothing more intimate than that. And then when someone goes to see their favorite jeweler, and then they are telling about the stories that they want told, I think that process is very intimate as well. And then eventually when the piece is made and when the person wants to hand it down to the next generation and they whisper to their grandchildren, you know, the memory of why they created the piece, I think that moment is also very, very intimate. And when you couple all this with the idea that jewelry is a timeless holder of value and beauty, I just think that 2021, my crystal ball will say that jewelry is really for everyone. Everyone will go out and find their piece and make it in a process that has meaning for them.
Beautiful. What about you, Vishal? What are your thoughts towards Sarah?
So as far as jewelry is concerned, I think conspicuous consumption will take a hit, but high jewelry with rare gemstones will do very well.
Hold on, grab your camera.
Yeah, it's falling down. So I think high jewelry with rare gemstones will do really well because it also has an investment value in it. So one-off pieces, very well designed, well made, I think is the way for 2021 because it has serious investment and long-term value. And personally, that's what I've seen the signs with VAC. Yes. So I think art buyers, they're still looking for really beautiful pieces. And as far as the broader world is concerned, I really think people will be much more responsible with nature and their behavior. And overall, they'll be much more positive. I think people will bounce back overall. The sentiments will bounce back.
Human spirit always is quite resilient.
Absolutely.
And Yosima, anything you want to add to that?
I agree. And I think as well, you know, with what's happened, it is about lasting value. It's about, thinking ahead, heirloom pieces, but that are wearable, not sitting in the safe. I think the emotional side is massive. I think more than ever. And I think not just creating for the sake of creating, but creating with a purpose. And as I said, for me, maybe impact jewelry with that tied in, I think it's very, very powerful. And I think there's a lot that can be done. And I think the stories, I think telling that story, and actually also the story of provenance, where is something from? How has that being made impacted the life of people? That minded or that, were part of that process. I think all of those things, I think it's transparency as well and giving that confidence. And as we earlier said, lowering the sort of threshold of entry, that jewelry is for everyone. It shouldn't be just for the rich and, famous. It's everyone should have something that means something to them and that they have taken time and consideration to choose to then maybe give to someone else.
Absolutely. So I think if I were to summarize, since we're at the end of this excellent discussion, thank you, all three of you, Sarah, Vishal, Yosina, for joining me today. And thank you to the GJEPC for giving all of us an opportunity to talk about our favorite topic. And I think looking ahead, definitely originality, creativity, keeping things real. And I think we're seeing consumers become more educated, asking questions. They're taking the time to invest in quality. And so, like you said, Vishal, yes, the sort of commercial grade pieces will take a hit in that sense, but jewelry that you can enjoy and wear every single day will always hold value and will always continue to enjoy and allow us to celebrate life and love and rainbows and butterflies.
Nicely said,
Very well
Vishal.
put.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Gigi.
Wonderful. See you all. Take care.
Thanks, Richa.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Nice meeting you guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.